This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Morgan, Content Director for Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today we're talking with Eric Neandros, President of Clean Transportation Solutions at TRC. Eric, great to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Great to see you.
Super excited to talk because we're diving into ACT Expo. You've been running that show here a long time. So for those who don't know, I'm sure they do though, but at the Advanced Clean Transportation Expo, it's running April 28th through May 1st in Anaheim this year. And really ACT Expo has become one of the biggest shows in the trucking industry, if not the show that a lot of companies bring their latest equipment and technology to. For anyone out there wondering, what can fleets expect from this year's show?
Well, this will continue the growth trajectory that we've seen since the inaugural ACT Expo in 2011. This one will be our biggest and really probably our best yet. We have the entire Anaheim Convention Center this year. If you remember, 2 years ago when we were there, we only had half. So we're approaching 500 exhibitors, which is a high bar for us. Last year we had about 360, so we're over 480 this year. We have almost 300 speakers this year, which is really unbelievable. That's way up again from last year as well. So there will be product and content galore. There will be a lot to see, a lot to listen to, a lot to learn, and just a really good overview of what's happening in the industry, which is a lot, right? There are a lot of changes underway. So we're looking forward to it, and we should have a great crowd. And obviously, like I said, there's a lot happening in the industry, so a lot of things to catch up on and understand what's happening and what direction we're moving in. So we're excited to get there.
Yeah, very cool. I do want to jump into the education portion here in a minute because, I mean, you all do a fantastic job there. Always lots to learn. One quick follow-up for you there, too. That's a tremendous amount of exhibitor growth. Really cool to hear. Is there a certain segment that's growing? Is that kind of all in across the board in terms of who's exhibiting, or where's that growth coming from?
You know, I think just really a testament to the continued growth of the industry around this advanced technology concept, right? We're seeing a lot more this year, for example, around digital technologies and AI and automation and, connected tech beyond just the telematics. And that's a growth area, for example, right? We're seeing the natural gas industry is really coming on strong again this year. They have the new 15-liter engine, from Cummins, that's available in the PACCAR product. It's going to be soon available in the Freightliner Cascadia, right? And we've seen the pilots and trials of that product over the last few years have been very successful, very favorable feedback from the fleets that are running it. And we've already started to see some big orders for that 15-liter natural gas engine product. So we're going to see, an expansion of that segment of the industry. Likewise, biofuels, renewable diesels continue to grow and to see more use. We've seen some great growth and momentum with biodiesel, B100, right? Which maybe a few years ago, some people had written off, but it's definitely here and coming on strong. So just a lot happening really in all segments. And that's, of course, on top of the very strong zero emission technology showcase that we already have that also continues to grow, right? We have some exhibitors this year that are going to have bigger booths, more product, new things that they're launching. So just a lot happening really across the board. And I think you add all that up, and that's where we're seeing the growth.
Yeah, very cool. We've heard rumors of some new trucks coming down the line as well. And I love calling out the technology angle, too, because I think that's important. Yes, we see all the great powertrain technology that's coming out across the board from OEMs and suppliers, but we've seen autonomous truck launches there at ACT Expo here in the past, so a big component of that technology. Always great to see. One question I do have is we're in 2025, and the world is already very different, it seems like. There's some uncertainty around what's going on in terms of the regulation as it relates to zero emissions requirements. How is the show adapting to what's currently happening in the trucking and regulatory climate?
Yeah, clearly a big part of the discussion right now in the industry, right? And I might say there's actually more certainty around zero emission regulations or lack of, right?
Right.
But the focus for us has really always been about, I always say we're all about sustainability, right? But it's economic sustainability and then environmental sustainability, right? And they have to go in that order for this to make sense. And so, in a, call it post ACF world where we don't have these heavy-handed zero emission requirements, and we have this array of technology and fuel options that are available to the end use fleet customers. I think we're gonna see and hear at ACT this year a lot about the whole portfolio approach, right? And really trying to find the right fit for the application. Not all applications are the same, right? And in some cases, natural gas might work great. In others, it might not. In some cases, battery electric might work great, and some it might not, right? And so that I think will be a big focus of the show is the full menu approach, right? And finding the right fit for your application. And that's always been a core of the show, right? And we've been doing this a long time, back to 2011, back before ACF, ACT was even a glimmer in someone's eye, right? And we had a predecessor show to ACT Expo even the 10 plus years before that. So it's always been about what works for the customer, what's available, what products, what fuels, and trying to bring that to the forefront via a show like ACT Expo, which is very much, we really try to do peer-to-peer education where one fleet can say, hey, I did this worked great, this didn't work so great. So, let's take the good and replicate that and not repeat the things that maybe didn't work so well. So that's going to be a big focus. The other piece that we've really tried to dial up this year, and we've had this in the past, is a focus around this dynamic between shippers and carriers, where we have a number of leading shippers that are saying, I want my carriers to be using cleaner equipment, lower emission fuels, and helping me to achieve my goals. And that business dynamic, I think, is very powerful to help the market continue to march forward. And it's, in a way, I think will be much more successful because that is how the business is run, right? So the carriers that want to get the work, they're gonna go figure out, how do I find the right fit for my application to serve this customer, and they're going to really focus to be successful there. It's a model that we've seen in some ways historically in the refuse market with like refuse franchises, where cities say, you have to use natural gas, otherwise you don't apply, right? And now we're seeing that more with like electric technologies or other things. So that'll be a big focus as well this year, that I think will continue to really drive the industry forward.
For sure. And that, I want to dive into that education portion, because I think, look, the show is great. The show floor is great. There's always great product and trucks and solutions there. Always a great energy. But one of the unique things about the show is all the education, the panels, the speakers, the breakout sessions. I think it's really one of the only shows I go to where the conversation extends past the show floor hours, right? The show floor closes, you go to dinner. What you were talking about there continues on just because there's so much to talk about. Can you give us a little glimpse of maybe some of the cool education stuff that's on the docket for this year?
Yeah, well, as I said, we have a record number of speakers. We have almost 300 speakers this year, and we've always been guilty of perhaps over-programming a bit because there's just so much to talk about. There is so much going on across the board. It's hard to fit it all in. As a result, this year we've added a theater on the show floor, so we'll have some content being delivered in the expo hall versus the traditional main stage and breakout sessions. So we're going to be giving more content throughout the show during those hours that are really dedicated to the show floor. But the education will be far and wide. We'll cover a lot of the topics that I mentioned. Of course, I'd be remiss if I also didn't mention our State of Sustainable Fleet report that we put out every year at ACT Expo. That really is meant to be a kind of a 101. Where are we, right? What's happening in these different segments across these different fuels and technologies? It's a little bit of a recap of the last year and what trends we've seen in the data, and a little bit of a look ahead on what we might expect to be the trends going forward, right? And that's really meant to be an aid to the fleets that maybe aren't as deep into it, that maybe this is their first ACT Expo, or they're trying to get a sense of, is this really on the upswing or the downswing, right? And kind of what's the momentum here, and what should I be thinking about for my fleet? So that's always kind of a really nice baseline activity at ACT Expo, and a resource that we put out for everyone to use. Beyond that, as we kind of dive into the content of the show, as I mentioned on the show floor, we're seeing a lot more with, we broadly just sort of term digital, right? With AI and automation and software-defined vehicles and advanced telematics and connected communications, those sorts of things, right? So we're going to have a whole digital workshop this year. We're really going to lean into that. We're going to have our usual array of workshops on Monday on EV charging and hydrogen and utilities and all those topics. The setup is generally similar to years past with ACT, where we'll have the Monday workshops, we'll have the Monday main stage. Last year we had all the OEM CEOs. This year we're going to flip that, and we're going to have the customers. So we're going to have CEOs from big fleets coming and talking about their perspective on the market, right? And obviously, as we've talked about already in this discussion here this morning, the landscape is shifting and things are shifting quite quickly. And so we want to hear from some of the top CEOs from these fleets. What does this mean to you and your business? What does this mean to you and your investments? What direction are you now headed? Are there any changes? If so, what direction? What does this all mean? So we'll start with that. The next day, we're going to get into this discussion around shipper carriers on the main stage. We also have a whole shipper carrier workshop to get more into the details of those issues. I mentioned, the whole portfolio. So we'll have lots of sessions on natural gas and renewable fuels, hydrogen, of course, lots happening there in kind of both directions. So we'll get lots of updates. Really just a lot of content across the board. And then on Wednesday, we'll have a session on the energy and the infrastructure side of the equation, right? You can't have these conversations and talk about just trucks. You have to talk about how are you going to get the energy or the fuel source to the trucks and to the vehicles, and how does that half of the clamshell sort of work together, right? So, right. Lots to cover, and stay tuned. We'll have some announcements coming out here in the next couple of weeks that'll just provide some more detail on all the content and the speakers that we'll have. But we're excited. It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just hearing about it, I'm looking forward to the show. Eric, I appreciate you taking the time. ACT Expo, April 28th through May 1st out in Anaheim. I know I'll be there. Look forward to catching up with you there and having a great show.
Yeah, excellent. Well, again, thanks for having me, Jason. We look forward to seeing you in Anaheim in about 2 months from now, and a couple thousand of our close friends and associates in the industry. So thanks for having me.